Hey there, this is Tune Into Gaming. I'm North Kozar.
And I'm Quactical.
And so what are we going to be talking about today?
Oh, well, today we're going to talk a little bit about the Nintendo Switch presentation and delve into the Breath of the Wild trailer just a little bit before moving on to some topics about city building games. And then we'll wrap it up with a mystery sound segment. How does that sound?
Sounds pretty great. Good old classic mystery sound, talking about some Tropico and some city skylines with our city builders. And oh man, I'm really excited to get in and talk about Breath of the Wild. I'm super
Me too.
pumped about this game. It's going to be great.
It's going to be off the chain. Is it going to be wild?
It's going to be Breath of the... You know what's funny, actually?
It's going to take your breath away. Breath away.
Breath of Wild.
Breath of Wild.
It's going to make your breath wild. Breath of the Wild is not classified as like open world. It's specifically classified as open air adventure.
So gotta get that, those breathing mechanics in there. They've probably added some.
Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale.
Be ready for that.
Be ready. But to start out, I guess we'll just go over what have you been playing or streaming?
Yeah, games and stuff. Right. Well, I streamed a little bit of FTL, I think about a week ago, and that was really, really fun. Had a nice...
That was the one I watched, right?
Yes, I believe so.
That was fun.
Both you and Dantian were there, which was awesome. Two of my best friends. And so it was really great. Got so much RNG on my side. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
If you're not that familiar with FTL, I don't know, did we talk about it in a previous episode or something?
We might have talked about it in the roguelike thing briefly, but let's go over it again just a touch.
Anyway, FTL is a roguelike game. You basically are on the run from a rebel fleet trying to carry a message to the Federation, I think. And you have to progress through different sectors, and each sector has different systems that you visit. And in each system, there's some sort of random encounter. Sometimes it's an enemy ship, sometimes it's like an environmental hazard. And there are various decisions you can make. You can investigate sometimes or do other things. And depending on what you pick, there's somewhat randomized outcomes, which is part of what makes it a roguelike, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes you'll get really, really lucky and get tons of rewards, or because of particular members of your crew, you'll unlock certain special things. And generally those are highlighted with blue text. I got all of the blue text this run. Like, it seemed like every other system I was getting some sort of blue text reward.
Yeah, I was going to try and count, but I gave up halfway through because it was just like...
It was so many.
And it was funny because you were really afforded a lot of good RNG, and then there were just like two brief moments that happened right near the end that kind of ruined the run.
Yeah.
Which was unfortunate.
Which is kind of my own fault. I used up too many of my missiles, and because I had a very missile-focused ship, I didn't really have anything else left to fight the final boss, and I ended up losing. But I haven't played the game in a really long time, so I felt pretty good about the run anyway, even though it was kind of fueled by RNG.
I mean, hey, you did better than me, and RNG is the name of the game. Except for...
some people are fueled by caffeine. I'm fueled by RNG. Yeah. Pumps through my veins.
Totally.
I am the force of chaos.
Or the force of just rocks hurtling through space.
Yes. Definitely beat Scissors. Yeah, I named one of my rock characters because there's a rock alien species. I named it Scissors, which was pretty great.
It's good.
Just because, rocks beat Scissors.
Usually.
A+ quality content, yet again.
Yeah. But it was fun. It was fun getting to be part of like the chat, and just kind of being there and watching and not really having to, I guess, worry because I wasn't on the stream. Normally like in those situations, yeah. I have my voice appearing over things, and so I was just kind of there chilling and reminding you to turn back on your oxygen and
Yeah, I had some problems with oxygen. I was watching some of the stream earlier, and I noticed that there was one period of time where I ended up going to the store and like doing a whole bunch of shopping in the game, and my oxygen was broken the whole time. And we had just had a conversation about whether or not the crew of my ship needed oxygen or not, and we hadn't come to a conclusion. And I think I just forgot about it.
Like, they're rocks. They don't need to breathe, right? This is fine.
Yeah, I was like, do they? I mean, this just doesn't make sense. Yeah. They don't need to breathe.
No, not at all.
And then they started dying and flashing lights, and the whole ship starts going warning, warning, right?
Yeah,
imagine. But yeah, they didn't die of oxygen deprivation.
They died of an explosion, a fiery explosion.
Right, because when the ship exploded in the final boss. Yeah. Although I think I had one character die of oxygen or of suffocation at one point.
Oh, he might.
Mostly due to negligence.
I think you lost your pilot, and then I think one of your guys got like stolen or something through some trap.
Yeah. So, FTL is definitely one of those games where like luck favors you until it doesn't. And then luck really doesn't favor you anymore until it does again. And then it just, it ebbs and flows.
Yeah, definitely. But that's certainly what makes it fun. And that's certainly what makes it fun as, an audience member just watching in on all of the events unfolding, because you kind of, even if you've played the game a bunch, you know sort of what events may happen, but you don't know exactly like how they're going to happen. And it can be just as fun watching someone make a good decision as it can be making them watch a poor decision and like mess something up. And it's all about the
or and FTL is definitely one of those things that like you can make too many decisions or doing too many things at the wrong time. Suddenly you can screw yourself. And it's very much about like, picking your battles.
Yeah.
Although it's difficult too because it's random. So like sometimes you're just going to get screwed anyway. And it's definitely very interesting in that sense. There's a lot of like, emergent storylines that happen, like this character's sector gets hit over and over and over again, and they like get caught on fire and then they get suffocated and like all this stuff. Like it's great how, like I said, emergent the storylines can be with characters and, finding new crew members, getting them stolen, all that kind of stuff, and with like the fact that it's permadeath.
Yeah. But that was sort of the problem. I streamed FTL. I don't remember when it was, but it was a long time since I'd played it for me as well, and I made too many decisions too early on and spent too much of my stuff and got this really cool laser that I couldn't even use. That was a good purchase, but I just made it way too early, and I also kind of got a little bit of not RNG on my side because a lot of my jumps to like the different points along the way, just there was nothing there, so I couldn't like get any more points to like upgrade my ship or anything. So it just, again, it's you never really know how it's going to go, which, like we've said before, adds to the replayability of these roguelikes. But it does make a really fun game to watch somebody else play for sure.
Oh yeah, I definitely think having played it a bit before, I enjoy it a lot more in the streaming context than actually just playing single player, because it adds that interest. Like if more than one person is watching that storyline evolve, it adds value, it adds impact to that story. It's not just me, right?
It also makes you care about it a little bit more. I think you care about the characters a little bit more,
right? Especially if like chat is naming them. Like I definitely want to get some actual viewers and do that.
Yeah, but no, that was why it was fun, and it was also fun because like I knew you, so it wasn't. It was a little bit different than if it was just some random person streaming FTL with a few viewers that I was a part of. It's like I know you. So it's just like it kind of made that a little bit different, which I guess is really why people like connecting with streamers and, quote unquote, getting to know them as best as they can.
Right. And that's how communities get built over time, right? Because it's the same group of people, even if it's thousands of people in a chat room, or if it's hundreds or dozens or two, it doesn't really matter. And I think that's kind of the cool thing about services like Twitch, for example, is that it is kind of an equalizer in that sense. If everyone is part of that community and everyone can just share in the storylines that are happening and share in that entertainment experience.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, you've been streaming some too, right? Haven't you been streaming a bunch of Legend of Zelda?
It's sort of. I was streaming Legend of Zelda, trying to see if how it worked. So I got a couple different like lapel mics and things to try and stream so that both me and my girlfriend would be able to be on stream at the same time talking. And we've been playing through Skyward Sword, which is the first time I've played it. So I've streamed that a couple times, but
right.
It mostly just like the lapel mics that I got were pretty cheap in quality, and I've been having some problems with them. So that's been hard to at least get decent quality. Like it sounds fine, but there's just this weird buzzing, and I think it's just low quality. So
right, compared to like your main microphone, which is much better.
Yeah, well, the headset that I am using right now, actually. But I think that it's something that's really fun. I enjoy, just having that sort of just banter back and forth as well about the game, and just like having random stuff come up. So having, her involved with it is really fun, and she enjoys it as well, which makes it a pretty great experience. So that's something we're definitely going to do more of going forward.
Yeah, totally. I really like having like a heckler or something, especially if it's a friend. If you're playing a game, I found like the Dark Souls games are great for this. Because you can be playing and just somebody being like, "Oh, come on, why'd you roll right? You should have rolled left. You died.
You were dead."
Like, good job. Look what you've done. we were all counting on you and you've let us down. And it definitely like adds to what's going on for sure.
Yeah. But aside from that, I've really just been kind of trying to get a variety of games streaming wise. Because I have so many in my Steam library that I just haven't played. And so last week I streamed a game called Shelter. And basically you're a badger that has like 5 youngins. And you go through this world and you feed them food. You try to not let them get eaten by eagles or hawks or whatever the heck it is. It basically, like, graphically, it reminds me of Don't Starve, but 3D.
Okay.
It has kind of like that paper look to it.
Oh, that's cool.
It was a very bizarre game. Like, there's no real intro or anything. You just are like there. But the thing that was kind of cool about it was early on, I'm like, I'm not going to ever be able to tell these like baby badgers apart. There's just no way. They have like different stripes, but I was like, I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. And then like 20 minutes in, I'm like,
Badger 1 through 5.
I'm just like naming them, but I'm not like giving them real names. I'm like, okay, this is 3 stripes. This is racing stripes. This is big stripe. Like just totally ridiculous things. But the story was basically like Circle of Life kind of. I mean, it's one of those experience games where you play, there's not a ton of gameplay, but the music was pretty cool. I felt the music was neat. There were some weird moments in like the level design choices. I feel like a couple moments where you were very funneled into this one specific area. There's this one point where the forest is like on fire. And so you have to kind of like go around these places, but it just like, it just very much makes you go into danger, and it feels weird because I'm like, we should probably not be going this way, but the game is forcing me to, so okay. And then there's other times where you're in sort of a bigger field and you're like, I have no idea where I'm supposed to go and there's fire behind me and I don't want to like have my guys get burnt on fire. But
yeah, generally having your babies roasted alive is not the best way to be a parent.
Yeah, I only lost one.
For all you new parents out there, just take heed from my advice. Is that the right way to say that?
Take heed.
Take my advice to heart.
Right.
Don't let your children get roasted alive in a burning field.
Typically something you want to avoid. But I did pretty well. Yeah. I only lost one in another part where the game forced you to go up a river.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, there's just like these massive swells of water coming down, and they didn't get behind the rock in time, and I lost one of them.
So was it like storyline based, or was it just there was a certain number of levels, or like the game was just kind of short?
It's a certain number of levels. Linear. I completed the game in like an hour, a little over an hour. So it's it's one of those like you could there's some elements of stealth gameplay, but it's sort of like a walking simulator with emergent story as you progress. You're like, oh, now the forest is on fire. Oh, now it's nighttime. Oh, now it's like this sort of thing. And I don't want to give away the ending, but the ending is a little awkward.
Everyone dies,
but it kind of plays onto the Circle of Life thing. So I mean, it was fun to play. I can't necessarily say that I would recommend it in terms of like gameplay or anything, but if you're looking for an artsy game with some nice music and an interesting experience, and you want to be a mama badger, then there you go. You've got something there. But
I mean, I definitely think there are some cool concepts there. It seems like it would maybe work a little bit better in an open world format, or some more open format at least. Like it can still maybe be like goal directed or story directed in that sense, but.
And there is, there's a Shelter 2, which I also own. I haven't played yet. And I think that they're working on another one that is more, I think, sandboxy, more open world like that, which there's, in the first one, there's a nurture mode, which makes it kind of like a daily thing where you like go into the game and you have young ones that don't follow you around, but they stay in the den and you have to go out and like get them food and bring it back for them and stuff kind of like that.
Yeah.
But
that's kind of an interesting mechanic for survival games too, because like so many survival games, it's all about just keeping yourself alive, right? You need to feed yourself, as opposed to having to like care for something else is an interesting mechanic thrown in there.
Yeah.
To add some challenge and like storyline, like you're saying, you were naming them.
Yeah, naming.
So I'd be interested to see like those kinds of elements incorporated more into survival games going forward, like, or just maybe, in more involved like pet mechanics, for example, or really having to like, take care of some other resource draining activity, right? Beyond just like feeding your own character.
It definitely, I definitely felt at a number of points throughout the game while playing, I was like, I don't care what happens to me, but these young ones need to like stay alive. So that is interesting because even if you have like a party in other, survival games or something, it is very like I need to stay alive, but also they need to stay alive. It still really, puts the focus on you. But I guess that's sort of the whole parenting thing,
Yeah, it just adds that interesting other element to it, for sure.
But aside from streaming, I recently started playing Tomodachi Life for the 3DS.
That's fun.
And it's great. It's so much entertainment, and I just have added, you're in it. I added myself in it. I have
oh, wonderful.
Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother.
Of course.
I added Link, Zelda, and also Toon Link. So that's an interesting dynamic going on there. My roommate Dean, I added him in there, and girlfriend Rosalind is also in there. And let's see, who else? I have like 20 characters in there. Oh, I added Professor Oak and Mewtwo.
Nice.
So it's just a smorgasbord of me's that are living on this island, which is called Tuna Fish Island. And we haven't had anything too ridiculous occur yet.
You need to have a robot who lives on the island.
And so he can just say tuna fish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good old classic memes. But it's the fun part about Tomodachi Life is just, again, it's kind of the randomness that goes into it, because they kind of make their own decisions. Like, they have personalities, but I just, my rule is I'm going to encourage whatever they decide. And I think that it's just going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
So is that, I'm not actually that familiar with the game. Is that how you influence it? Is you can either like encourage or discourage whatever behavior they're doing?
So like, yeah, if you in the game were like, I want to be friends with Link, I could say, sounds like a good idea, or maybe not. And that sort of, if I'm pretty sure I haven't said maybe not, because again, it goes against my rule. But if you say, maybe not, then you would probably be like, oh, okay, and not go and make friends with Link. So
right. I remember you telling me about my character showing up on the roof in a disguise with a letter to someone else.
You sent me a letter that told me to meet you on the roof, but I didn't know it was you, and you were wearing just like sunglasses and a fake mustache, and you said, I will wait for you forever, and then left.
All right, I guess it's true.
It was a wonderful moment.
I will cherish it forever, even though I wasn't there,
right.
but wasn't there. Something like that. And
it's also cool because you get to like buy clothes and dress people up in outfits, and other random things happen as well. But it's just, it's like a Tamagotchi with me's. So
yeah, that's really awesome. Yeah, other than that, for me, and as far as like streaming and gaming, I've just been doing a little bit of music. Been participating in a Facebook group called Jam of the Week. Basically, it's just this group where the leader like posts a particular song, and everyone plays themselves, like posts a video of themselves like improvising over like one go round of the song, because it's a jazz thing, right?
Yeah.
So I have been trying to get myself to do it for a while. I haven't really had time during the week a lot of times, because it's only 1 week long, and a lot of times I'm busy on the weekend, right?
Yeah.
But this week I actually did it, so I posted the video and got some people to watch it, which is cool. So I was excited about that. Yeah, I'm definitely getting my process a little bit more streamlined as far as just music recording, and then now the video recording element as well. I need to get a better tool than Windows Movie Maker, however, because it was kind of a pain. Actually, just like syncing it up was a little annoying.
Yeah, it works. It does what it does. It makes movies, quote unquote movies.
Works.
Yeah. But definitely,
movies, yeah,
it's one of those things that you, especially if you know what you want your end result to be very specifically, it gets, you get to the point where you're like, I need more tools. I need more accessibility to actually.
Right. Even if that output is fairly simple.
Right.
Yeah, it was somewhat frustrating, but I sort of figured it out. So I should be able to maybe continue using it for a little bit, but then I need to find something else eventually, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Maybe like, I think Sony Vegas, I don't know if that's still a program, but it sort of is like a in-between bridge between like professional and better than Windows Movie Maker quality of software.
Yeah.
But
the nice part though was that the audio came out really great, because
good.
I was able to run it through my mic and through Ableton.
Cool.
But then was still able to sync up fairly well. Like once I was able to figure out the controls of Windows Movie Maker, it worked out just fine. But then, yeah, just a little bit of mixing on my flute this time. I think I did just like a little bit of light compression, a little bit of light reverb, and then some EQ on the end of that. And that was it. Like,
yeah.
Because like there was a little bit where just, my distance from the mic varied a little bit. So I found that just a little bit of compression with, fairly low, dry, wet, is what I generally tend to use in those kind of situations, because
Right.
it just eases it up, but you don't really hear the impact of the compressor. It doesn't sound like super heavily compressed.
Yeah, it's good for definitely leveling things out, especially if you've got, you have a good mic for recording. So I mean,
yeah, it's been pretty nice.
that's cool. Well, I'm glad you're able to do that.
Yeah.
Anytime you can get some outside, encouragement to record and do more music is always nice.
Yeah, I'm definitely hoping to get in the habit of doing that a little more. Maybe just, like you've been posting videos regularly. I kind of want to do the same thing, but more on the music side.
But yeah.
But yeah, I'm getting there.
Yeah, definitely. You could. I don't know if you could really do it live, but I mean, you could just dedicate yourself like an hour at some point during the week. I guess that's hard because you don't really have the most consistent schedule right now. So
yeah, but I'm making it work. I got some stuff coming down the pipe, so we'll see in the next few months what I am able to accomplish. And especially now that I'm starting to get the hang of just the process a little more. I think, doing it initially when you're learning as you go, it's hard to actually focus on the output itself because you're focusing on the tools and how to use them.
Yeah, I agree. Very much so.
And then so that was kind of the goal of this time, right? I actually didn't care that much about the quality of the output or like the quality of my take. I was like, whatever, I'm just going to like play a take and be done with it. I did like 2, right?
Yeah.
I didn't really worry about it too much because it was mostly just about the process and practicing the process and, getting over that initial fear of like, okay, now I'm calling this done. I'm exporting. I'm like moving over to the editing stage completely, right? Like
that's
that kind of thing.
That's definitely one of the hardest parts is actually being like, okay, I'm going to be done with this now. Moving on.
Yeah. And there's so many things that like, oh yeah, I could have made this better or that better. But it's like, it's one chorus through a tune that somebody else wrote on like a Facebook group. Like I don't need to spend my entire life, like,
Right.
editing the drums and like making sure the tracking is like super natural sounding and not like robotic.
Yep.
Like that's not important for this context, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's good. I think that's really an important line to be able to draw for yourself because it can get really easy to sort of just like waste so much time essentially tweaking little things or continually like obsessing over fine details, which
when probably sometimes the listeners wouldn't even notice a lot of those tweaks.
Right. And I mean, I think it's good to notice those things and be aware of them, but I definitely don't think it's always necessary to get that deep in things like what you were saying when it's just sort of this thing that you want to put out there and be like, look, here we go. I'm learning this program and everything. This is good. Cutting yourself a little slack basically is what you're doing. And I think that's really, really important and definitely hard to do, especially with creative stuff.
And with the mixing decisions too. Like, I spent a little bit of time being like, okay, what if I ordered them this way or that way? And then I was kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to do it simple, just a little bit. Okay, it sounds good like this. I'm done. Like it didn't need to be, perfected down to like the tiny, minute, like turn of the dial, right?
Yeah.
It just, it's fine. And it actually sounded really, really good. And I'm really happy with it, even though there's like so many things that I know I could have done better. And that's actually a really good feeling.
Cool. That's good. Glad to hear.
But yeah.
Excited to have you do more music stuff and just do videos and things. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, we should we should talk about some cool stuff in the world of gaming that's been happening right now with the Switch and Breath of the Wild coming out really soon. It's incredibly soon.
Yeah, so the Nintendo Switch presentation was not last week, I think, but the week before. It was the 12th, I believe. And basically it was just an hour-long presentation where Nintendo was like, hey, here's the Switch. This is what it costs. This is when you can get it. And they were like, it's going to be released March 3rd, which
all those deets.
Maybe I was wrong, but I thought it was going to be released more towards the end of March. So the March 3rd release date is really exciting, especially just because in this presentation,
I mean, that's like a month.
Yeah. In this presentation, they really, showcased everything that the controllers can do. And I'm not going to go super in depth with that just because it's controllers you've seen in the video, the previous trailer as well. Like you slide them on the screen, you take the screen with you. I'm interested to see how it all plays out. It looks really cool. I'm super excited about it. They showcased they had one game that's called 1-2 Switch, and it's like just like a party game where it's like a quick draw McGraw kind of high noon everywhere sort of thing. You just take the screen with you, put it somewhere, you and your buddy face off with the like the Joy-Con controllers, I think they're called. And then you lift and point, and it like registers when you've pointed it, and so it can tell like who was quickest. It does all this like cool stuff. And then there's
motion controls.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it works.
Maybe they've learned. Maybe the motion controls have improved. I'm just against motion controls inherently, but that's me. The other one that they showed a lot of as well was this game called Arms, which is like a boxing fighting game that had a really kind of bizarre video intro for, but basically
So this is like an evolution of like Wii Sports, kind of?
No, definitely its own breed. So basically you have arms that are like springs and like with boxing gloves. And you're in a ring, you move around and you punch with the controllers, like, punch. But it's all like, there's like dodging and all these other sorts of things that go into it. And I think that it's something that it could actually be pretty cool. Again, if the motion controls aspect of it is responsive, it could be really neat.
And it feels natural.
Yeah, and if they have like an interesting, like if there's powers or, move sets or characters, if they have a good pool of that, it could definitely be something that's pretty entertaining. Those two games are also coming on release day, if I'm not mistaken, on the 3rd. And they had a number of other games like Mario Kart 8 is coming back as well.
So that's a re-release, right? Because that's the same one as the Wii U version.
It's a re-release, but they've there's more content in it. I don't remember how many. I think it basically has like all the DLC from Mario Kart 8 for the Wii U. So if you don't have Mario Kart 8 and you're going to get a Switch, get it for the Switch. Other big things though, before I forget. Region free. So there's no region locking on any of the games, which is a big deal for Nintendo.
Right, because if you're especially if you're taking it portable and traveling too.
Well, and it's mostly just for games that don't get released, in America, and people want to play certain titles that only get released in Japan or whatever. Like, you have that option, and it allows, because Nintendo loves to not have enough stock, you can pre-order a game from like the UK and not have to worry about it or whatever. Cool. So that's a nice aspect about it, and cool.
It's definitely interesting to see how Nintendo has changed from even 10 or 20 years ago with just how games are released now, like simultaneously across the globe, right?
Yeah, but it's definitely one of those things that's an interesting move for Nintendo, just in terms of how they've done things in the past. And then the other thing is for online functionality with the Switch is it's going to be a paid service in the fall of 2017. So basically, throughout the course of the summer, after it's released, it's all free and everyone who has it can be online for free. But then they're going to a paid model, which we don't know what the pricing is on that yet or anything. However, I'm actually kind of hopeful, because one of the things that Nintendo has never really gotten is how to have good online play. And if
it's good,
if paying for it is what makes them invest into having good online play, then I'm there. Like, I think that's totally worth it. However, again, it just has to be good, and they have to not constantly tell me, "Are you sure you want to go online because it's a scary place?" Like, "Are you sure? It's dangerous out there." Connecting to the internet.
I mean, part of that is because it's like aimed at kids to some extent,
right? But
I think like that's like putting it within a paid service as well is kind of helpful in that sense, because it allows them to curate it a little bit more, right? You're going through their infrastructure and their ecosystem, and then they can also gate it so that parents know what they're buying their kids, for example, if they're letting them go online. And then for us adults who don't care, we can just use it as we please.
Right. And there's a lot of really cool parental controls available for it. They made the best video with Bowser and baby Bowser, like showcasing the parental controls. And it just made me you should just watch the video because it's great. But there's a lot of neat features there as well, which I think is good. At least how I view them, not being a parent and totally understanding that it's done in a way that isn't like, I'm going to just remotely control how you access the game and we're never going to talk about it. But it like has a reminder pop up saying like, "Hey, your time's up for the day, time to finish." And then if they keep playing, like you get a notification on your smartphone or whatever that's like, "Hey, they've been playing for over an hour longer than you said that they could play." And like you can remotely turn off the console, but it like is frowned upon. And I think that that's good, because one, that would suck if you were playing the game.
Right. But then it allows it to be handled by the relationship between the parent and kid, as opposed to just like this arbitrary technological switch that gets flipped.
Definitely. And I really liked that aspect about it, because a lot of other parental controls seem to be very hands-off. So that was a neat little feature as well.
Yeah, they just like remove functionality as opposed to actually having like a dynamic responsiveness and ability between like,
but
that's kind of cool.
So there's a number of other things in the Switch presentation that they had like developers show up, and Skyrim is going to be for the Switch.
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't remember
Skyrim on another
date,
console for $60 though, right? Isn't it full price?
I have no idea. Probably. You know,
I don't know. Like, I think the portability aspect of that is cool. On the other hand, I think,
does it come with mods?
Right, and that's the thing. It's like, why vanilla Skyrim, paying full price for vanilla Skyrim on a console? It's really, you're only getting it for the portability at that point. Like, that's like the primary thing,
which is cool. But I mean, we've bought it
but
now.
At the same
like
time, you'd probably
5 times.
rather play it with mods anyway. Yeah.
So
I don't know. So I have mixed feelings about that to some extent. Like, it is cool, and I do like in general being able to play older games. But I think that's one of the things with the console model that makes it weird to some extent anyway, compared to like the Steam and PC model. And maybe that's one of the things where just consoles will adapt in the coming years, right? To have more of like that digital marketplace that's like always open and just an ever expanding library. We're starting to see it to some extent already, right?
Yeah. I personally miss the physicality. So I'm excited that, I guess cartridge is a stretch, because I'm pretty sure they're just like SD cards for the Switch, but still that physicality of having something and, you know, being able to like have a collection of games is kind of nice. Where Steam, you know, you get the game, but you don't, there's not that rewarding feeling of peeling off the plastic and like opening it and being like, this game is mine now.
And to some extent, I think it like reduces the impact that getting individual games has. You know, you get a game and you're just like, oh, now it's just another game in my library, as opposed to going and picking it up from the store and like taking it home and like, oh wow, I have no idea what this is like. Like, I want to play it now. Or, like,
yes,
I've seen trailers for this. I want to play it.
It's very different, and it's so easy to buy games on Steam that you're just like, oh, I just bought like 12 games in the winter sale. No big deal. I'll get to them maybe in a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about like there are trade-offs to the accessibility, but I think in the long run, obviously the benefits outweigh the trade-offs, because there are so many games that we can now play, even historical games that like were unavailable to play for many years. To certain people or in certain contexts, right? And I just think it's really cool that we're at a point in history where with the internet and with services like Steam and with consoles, there's just an ever-expanding library of games that can be played and that can be enjoyed and can be modded or improved upon or used as inspiration for a new game, right? It's just like, as a medium, it's always growing and it's always evolving, and there's always going to be more and more cool stuff to play.
Definitely. And here's another thing that's cool about the Switch that I just remembered that makes me happy is you can have up to 8 consoles locally connected with each other.
Oh, cool.
So cool that you've got paid online, but they aren't just totally ditching out on the party aspect of it, which makes me really happy. And I mean, it was clear by the first, you know, reveal trailer or whatnot, when they had everyone like playing the game and being together or whatnot, that was an important factor. But I'm very glad that they're doing it. So there's some games that you can play, you know, each having one controller on the screen, or if you have 8 friends or 7 friends and yourself, I guess, they'll bring their console or together. You all just sit around in a living room and play Mario Kart.
I mean, you can't be friends with yourself?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's really cool, though. Nintendo has always been really good about local multiplayer. I mean, at this point, they're kind of like the only people who are really putting an emphasis on it in that sense.
Or that seem to still care about it. Like that.
I mean, you know, it used to be like, I think about like, you know, the Halo games having co-op campaign multiplayer, like,
or split screen at all. I don't think Halo 4 had any kind of local split screen.
I mean, but that was definitely like one of the big reasons why I preferred Halo to some of the other shooters that were available at the time, right? Is that they didn't have that local capability. And, you know, you get it sometimes with some games nowadays, but it's like, it's definitely not that ubiquitous. And I guess I just would have expected that it would be something that would have evolved more and more, right? That, you know, people want to play with their friends and they want to play with their real life friends.
Yeah. And
I guess that's, again, it's the trade-offs of the
definitely,
internet.
Yeah. I was going to say it's one of those trade-off things where, as well, something that enables them to make more money. Like if you've got a big AAA game like Battlefield 1, you know, it's very graphics intensive. So if you're playing on a console, good luck trying to split screen it without really having to drop the graphics down a lot, but also just you're paying for Xbox Live to play online with your friends who also own a console, who are paying for Xbox Live to play online with their friends. And it's like,
right, that's hundreds and hundreds of dollars of extra money that they're going to make.
Yeah.
Whereas if you were able to just go over to your friend's house and play, they wouldn't have made that money.
And don't get me wrong. I don't think that this is like a shady thing that developers are like intentionally doing.
It is just business.
I think there's definitely a business side to that. But I also do really strongly believe that it does have to do with that, the graphics level and stuff as well, as games are more and more graphics intensive. But you look at, the Switch, I'm sure that there will be some things that are going to be couch co-op type of deal, but you still each have to have your own console. But the local play is really nice. And it's easier because you can bring the screen with you. You don't have to be like, hey, I want to come over and play, LAN Halo 4. Let me bring my TV and Xbox and like everything.
Right. I mean, people still did that. But yeah, it's bridging the gap between like mobile and console in that sense, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where it goes. But as of right now, good luck trying to pre-order one because they're sold out everywhere. So
yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna hold off for sure. I think I value the larger library of the Wii U, for example, right now. I'm excited to get one here soon.
Yeah, there's very few release games for the Switch, honestly. They have a lot lined up, but
people are saying that basically you're going to get it for Breath of the Wild, which looks awesome.
Yes.
By the way. But yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of other big ticket items. I mean, Skyrim, like I said, that's not a big selling point for me. Like, it's cool and it would be nice, and I'd probably play it on the Switch, take it to the park, play some Skyrim. That's kind of awesome.
But I think here's the thing with it, for sure, is that if you have only owned Nintendo consoles and you don't have a computer for gaming or anything, like,
it's great.
That's a dream come true, I'm sure, for so many people. And so in that regard, I think it's awesome. Again, like that level of accessibility, just having it out on multiple platforms and whatnot. But so you brought up Breath of the Wild, and so now I'm going to go into it.
I breathed life into this discussion.
So Nintendo basically, throughout the latter half of the presentation on the Switch, was trolling the audience about Breath of the Wild, because everyone was like, oh, cool, like game with a TBA release date. Awesome. Sometime in 2017. Oh, right. There's Sonic. There's Fire Emblem Warriors, whatever. Where's Zelda? And there was a point in there where literally it was Reggie was asking, I don't remember all he was asking, but he was asking different like Nintendo people. It was like, hey, so have you heard about Breath of the Wild? What's the release date? And he was like, oh, I don't know. You should ask this guy. And he's like, oh, okay. Hey, what's the release date? Oh, I don't know.
You should ask
Why don't you ask this guy? And like it goes back around to whoever was in like Japan giving the presentation or whatnot. And he's like, oh, yeah. Okay. We'll get to that in a second. Let me tell you a little bit more about the Switch. And he talks a little bit. And then they're like, all right, well, that's all we have. And we'll leave you with this. And then it's the trailer of Breath of the Wild, which is so well done. Just like,
oh yeah,
in and of itself. One, for just being a Zelda game, but two, just for being a game as well. Like the voice acting and everything was weird because it's a Zelda game, but I also loved it. It was just dramatic and emotional and really set the game up well. And then that was how they ended the presentation. They mic dropped with that, and at the end of the trailer it says March 3rd, and everyone's like, yeah, it's a
holy
release
crap
title.
Yeah.
Which I was hoping, because they were just dragging it out so long and making such a big deal about it, that's
honestly, I feel like the console would have struggled had it not been a release title as well.
Yes.
Like, because what's there to draw those large numbers of buyers?
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree very much. So it only makes sense, but
yeah, that's really awesome. I watched the trailer. It was pretty epic. It definitely looks like they're focusing on the story elements a lot. I mean, you never can know for sure until the actual game comes out, but I'm really excited for that.
It's cool.
I haven't really played a lot of Zelda games, but I've heard about the story.
Well, yeah, so the thing that's interesting, and again, like you said, we don't really know until it comes out, but what's neat about it is they seem to be really drawing a lot from, Zelda 1, where you just kind of start, and there's not a big, opening cutscene with all of this hoopla and whatnot. It's just like, all right, you're here. Let's learn some basic mechanics and get you out in this open world. And again, from the rumors and from the understanding is that this is really a game that you can, you can progress in any direction you want to. It's not going to be the kind of like, all right, I got to do the forest temple and now the fire temple and the water temple and get these items that awesome. I use, once in this dungeon and then move on. It's like the items you get will allow you to solve puzzles in some way. But from what I gather, there are some puzzles, or most puzzles will likely be solvable in multiple ways.
But you just have to have like one of like 3 different items maybe to do it or something like that.
Yeah, it's very much more open in that regard. And so it's exciting just because of that openness in terms of how you can approach the game and how you can progress. Yeah. There's people, of course, rumor milling that you can beat the game in 20 minutes if you go like right to the final boss or whatnot. Who knows how realistic that'll be.
You know how to do it.
I'm sure there's going to be some amount of gating just because they want the story to evolve. It seems like you said like they've put a lot of effort into the story, and so I'm really interested to see what that's like, and I'm interested to see how it ties in with the other Zelda games. Being a big Legend of Zelda, fan myself, I'm curious to kind of see how that goes. And like I said, finishing up Skyward Sword now, which is supposedly the first Legend of Zelda game in like the time frame of Zelda games and whatnot. But
right, yeah, it starts the whole narrative. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I'm interested in something you touched on there with the fact that there are potentially sounds like multiple approaches to some of the puzzles.
Yeah.
And I think like thinking about other open world games like Skyrim, for example, I think that's something that is maybe lacking or just could be emphasized more, right? The different character types, they go to different parts of the map and do different quests, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like you have like different ways of solving each of the main puzzles in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a cool thing that, hopefully they're going to emphasize. It sounds like they have some amount of that as well. But, if you want to play the game and you want to go over here and you want to ignore this other area, I mean, maybe you have to go there eventually, right? But just like, it sounds like it's going to be okay to play the game the way you want to play it, or just the way it like naturally seems to evolve, as opposed to being like forced, like you said, to go in like a specific path.
Yeah. Or just exploring and finding new stuff. It's basically like if you've played Wind Waker at all, it's like Wind Waker with not, tons and tons of ocean in terms of like, you can go anywhere on the map and whatnot. And I remember, it was almost 2 years ago maybe that they teased this game and they were like, you see that mountain back there? You can go to that mountain if you want to. You just have to walk there.
That mountain.
And I don't know the size of the map, but they showed it in one of the Treehouse trailers. They like showed like, here's the demo area, and they like zoomed out and it's like massive. And so I'm really interested to see how that scales. But I'm beyond excited. Like excitement doesn't even really capture everything. And it's cool just the new direction they're going with Zelda games. And I hope that it's, indicative of where they're thinking of taking Nintendo games in general. Well, shoot, I didn't touch on, just brief tangent. Super Mario Odyssey, Mario's in New York City. So I don't know what's up with that.
Oh yeah, I saw some GIFs of people like putting it side by side with like GTA or, like doing like putting Mario in GTA, getting hit by a car.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it looks like that they're trying to kind of shake things up a little bit at least. But it's exciting. Cool. I'm excited. The voice acting aspect of Breath of the Wild will be really interesting. I hope that Link remains the silent protagonist, even though I kind of hate that in general. It works for Zelda. Like it works for the Legend of Zelda games.
Like anywhere else, you're not allowed to do it. Zelda, you can do it.
It just, I don't know. I don't know what it is about it, but I don't want Link to have a voice, like a spoken voice in terms of words, because it's weird. But
you could have like the squeaking of old Nintendo games with the text.
That's just Animal Crossing.
I mean, some other stuff too.
Yeah.
I think Okami has it as well.
Yeah. But so the voice acting will be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And really, like, the game looks and it feels, just from what I've seen in the trailer, like a movie. And I mean, granted, it's a trailer, so that's sort of the point. But it just seems kind of like you said, there's a lot more, I guess, narrative story there. And a lot more emotion behind it. Yeah. Whereas, like, I don't know that we've ever seen Link really display emotion. And there's like a snippet in the trailer where Zelda's like crying and Link is like holding her, and it's like, whoa, this is emotion in a Nintendo game, guys. Calm it down. What are you doing?
Yeah, and like Nintendo games have always had a lot of personality, but it's cool to see them like taking those extra narrative steps. And I mean, obviously, we won't know exactly how it'll play out in the game, but I'm pretty excited to see what they've done and how much more of those narrative elements they've injected into the game.
Yeah.
It sounds really awesome so far.
And open world. And we know
especially
us.
pairing those two things. Because that's also one, like talking about trade-offs. Been one of the things for open world games in the past is that there has kind of been this trade-off between story and open world, right? That, if you have a story that's impactful and you want to go complete the story, that sort of incentivizes you to play the game in kind of a linear way, right? You want to go complete the story.
Yeah.
But if they're doing it in such a way that there are multiple approaches to some of the obstacles and some of the puzzles, you can totally open things up a little bit more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have a goal, but you're able to complete it in like 5 different ways, well, then those are 5 different paths that you can go down, but still like experience the story at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see if they do something like that, or like are able to put the open world gameplay in a way that like, what's the word? It complements the storyline.
Yeah.
And is not just like a separate, like, oh, here's the story, and now you can also go explore the world.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that I'm hopeful, like you, that they're able to do that in a way that feels authentic and true to the game itself. Whether or not it quote unquote feels like a Legend of Zelda game, I care less about that than this just being a good game.
Because there have been so many Legend of Zelda games, right?
Yeah.
Like they should focus on making this game the best this game that it is.
Yeah, and I think I'm very hopeful. It's going to be different and it's going to be great, and we're gonna see what it's like.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things about it is so they had like the Master Edition, which came with like a Master Sword statue, and they had a Special Edition, which just had some like extra content and like the soundtrack. And I wanted to get the Special Edition because I know at some point I'm going to get the Switch. It might not happen at release, but just everywhere has been sold out for pre-orders because Nintendo, and who knows when it'll end up happening. But I ended up securing a pre-order, supposedly. It hasn't been canceled yet, from what was it, Nebraska Furniture Manufacturers or something, some random website that someone had posted on this now in stock page online. And they were like, this website has it. And I went, and like, it's legit, clearly, because it's a big business. But it just was funny sort of how I found it. And I'm not even going to, like, it'll get here a few days after release date. And I'm probably not even going to have a Switch at that point. But what is going to happen is I'm going to get it for the Wii U as well anyway, because I'm playing this game the day it comes out. I'm going to walk into Target and be like, pre-ordering this for the Wii U. Okay, thanks. Or wherever.
Okay, thanks.
Somewhere that I can go and pick it up release day, physically, have it in my hands and leave the store. And then I'm going to stream the heck out of it.
I've got the whole game in my hands. I've got the whole game.
Yeah. It actually...
Something like that, yeah.
I think I don't remember if it was just digital download or what exactly, but it needs like 3 gigs, or for the Wii U, it uses 3 gigs of storage space. Like in addition to, I think, the disc or whatever. Like it just has this extra content that they couldn't fit in there, I think. Or I don't know. But I mean, it's fine. It's fine with me because I've got, an SD card for it and whatnot. But it was just interesting that they're like, yeah, we tried our best to fit it all, but it's just too big of a world. So,
well, I mean, that's a good sign though, right?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. But yeah, definitely when this game comes out, I'm going to be streaming it like as much as humanly possible. So if you're interested in seeing a lot excited. Of that, that'll be happening.
And that would be that.
That would be that. So that's all I've got on the Switch and Breath of the Wild. I
think, we can like switch gears a little bit.
Cue Switch noise that they played a lot during the presentation.
Chicka, chicka, chicka. I don't. That's definitely not the noise. I don't have no idea what that was.
No. But one of the other things we were going to talk about today are city builders, and like specifically, you building a city, like in a game, not in real life. Wanted to make that distinction.
No, we're going to have a lecture about like being a civic engineer. Yes, civic engineering. Blah, blah, blah.
Good.
Exactly. Yes, those things. And we'll begin our lecture with talking about what? City skylines? That's definitely become quite popular recently.
Yeah.
Seems like.
It's
looks really cool.
It is very cool. I will let you know, having played it not a ton, but enough that I greatly enjoy it. Honestly, I'm not a big like sim fan. Sim, not referring specifically to like the sim games, but just simulation games in general, like city builders.
Which city builders are definitely the simulation type of game.
Yeah, and I normally just am not super into that, but I watched a number of streams of City Skylines, and it just really spoke to me. And I think what spoke to me the most was just the creation of this world, but mostly the roads. Like the biggest thing that was so cool is I'm like, wait, so I can just like make roads and make this huge road infrastructure and, you know, put buildings around it and parks or whatnot, but it doesn't make you like place a bunch of houses. You just essentially, so you build roads, and then alongside the roads you zone. So you say like residential houses or, you know, high density houses or markets or whatever, and the game just automatically will build everything up there, and you don't have to micromanage stuff.
That's very similar to like the SimCity games, actually.
Okay, but it's cool, and I enjoyed it a lot, and I enjoy the roads aspect of it and building that infrastructure again. The other thing that's really neat about it is just how expansive it is. There's tons and tons of mods, and from what I recognize, mods are still actively being developed, and they actually just had, it was the natural disasters DLC, which I don't have, but
destroy your city.
Basically, like now you have to worry about floods and fires and tornadoes and stuff, but they released that, I think maybe just in November or something. It's fairly recent, so the game is still definitely being, you know, developed and updated in some regard, at least with DLC. I don't know how much further that'll go from the official side, but mods are still a big deal too. But
that's really cool. What I saw that I thought was really cool was how the city expansion worked. As like your city grows and you hit certain population limits, you're able to like expand your city to like different tiles around like the main square, which is the borders. And it looked like the map could potentially get very, very, very large. So it was pretty cool to see that organic growth element as well.
Yeah, though I haven't played it enough to get a really huge map like purchased. The map definitely has a limit that's not like massive, but it's still pretty huge. I would be totally guessing, but I think like 6x6 in terms of those tiles. But it might be bigger. I'm not.
Wow, yeah.
I'm not sure.
That's crazy. Yeah, and it's one of those games where a lot of city builders are like this, where everything has to be attached to a road for it to function. Although it's interesting that some games aren't like that. I think like Tropico, for example, is one of them. There's some differences in the core mechanics in that sense, where you don't actually have to place everything next to a road. But
that's nice.
That's what's interesting about like cities is like how much of your city design is so dependent on your road structure.
Yep.
Because of that, because everything has to be next to a road, and because the zones just pop up on either side of the roads. Like there's just a certain number, like zoning spaces, available slots on each side. Like, you know, if you want to make efficient use of an area, you've got to figure out a way to, you know, make the transportation infrastructure functional.
That's traffic quickly becomes a huge problem, especially like if you want to make the most efficient, you know, grid pattern sort of deal, you're going to have a lot of traffic problems because every 500 feet there's going to be a traffic light, and it's just going to become anarchy. So you definitely trying to find a balance there between efficiency and like functionality is difficult.
Right. And all the like streams that I've watched of it so far, they've had people, you know, building up a city and quickly realizing like, wait, okay, so this worked for a small city, but now as the city's growing in size, what was working before doesn't work. And you have to like, you know, demolish some homes and demolish some roads and build some highways and like, you know, transform the landscape and do a whole bunch of stuff, which like, you know, seeing your city grow and change over time, I think is like the most rewarding part about it, right? And you start off as this like tiny little town, and then suddenly it's like this sprawling metropolis, right? That's kind of like the holy grail of all city games, is seeing that evolution.
Yeah, and like you said, when you reach a certain population level, you unlock new tiles that you can purchase around, but also you unlock new just items and special like locations, so police stations, fire stations, schools, things like that, as well as different road types. And I think that it works really well in terms of, like you said, that sort of growth from small town to bigger city to metropolis type of thing. But I think that there's also times where I've been playing and I'm like, okay, I really just want to like work on this highway and make this efficient from the get-go. And it would be nice to do that if you want to play that way. And the cool thing about cities is you can with just the general mod support from Steam, or even the built-in mods. There's like when you download cities, there's infinite money, and there's like unlock everything from the start, and they disable like the Steam
if you want to play
achievements.
like sandbox mode.
Yeah, but it's nice because if you want to just have everything unlocked at the beginning and start building however you want, you can. And there's just that ability, sort of like we were talking about in the last episode with, you know, kind of subverting the game mechanics for the sake of your entertainment value. I really appreciate that they sort of brought cities along with that in mind. Like maybe not everyone's going to want to, you know, make the trek of building up your population before you can have a big metropolis. Like you can start out from the beginning. It's going to cost a lot of money.
Build a metropolis. Yeah.
But so I appreciate that. Definitely.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I've haven't played it yet, but I've watched some streams and I picked myself up a copy. I've been playing a lot of Tropico though. And I've played Tropico 4 and 5. They're a little bit different, but they have some of the same core mechanics, so I was going to talk about those. One is like the transportation works a little bit differently. So Tropico has roads. Still, obviously, most city games have roads.
That's good. That's a good, important bit of infrastructure to have in a
And it also has the same, like, or a similar individual person simulation that, like, cities does, where you can, like, see them walking around and, like, getting into cars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's interesting, though, is because the economy is so based on trade. So your entire income is based on, you know, what you can export through the dock of your town. Because Tropico, basically, if you're not familiar with Tropico, you play as a dictator of a small, like, Caribbean island, basically.
Okay, well, so that makes sense then.
Yeah. So you have a port and you have, like, your palace, and, you know, depending on what kind of island you build, right, you're going to be, like, a, you know, really terrible dictator and have a ton of military, or sometimes you have a very, like, tourist-focused island. Sometimes you know, have a bunch of factories, right? But especially in the early game, you really need to focus on trade, like logging or farming or that kind of stuff. And you produce resources and you sell them. But you need teamsters to move goods around your island. So you have to build these buildings, teamsters offices. And if you don't, like, especially as you get a larger city, you can see your entire city just crawl to a halt. And suddenly, like, your finances will just go completely to shit, right? You'll have, like, be losing all this money, even if you still have, like, factories that are producing stuff, because, like, you can't move goods around your island fast enough. The one thing that, like, it does struggle with, though, is that it's kind of hard to control things. And that's what seemed cool about cities, is that there were a bunch of different road types. Whereas in Tropico, it's like, okay, you've got your road, and if this road gets too full, well, there's really jack shit you can do about it, except for, like, make more roads, you know? So it definitely didn't have as much of, like, an evolution to it, in the sense of, like, you know, small country road going up to, like, a freeway eventually.
Yeah.
It's more just, like, you have to design it in the right way. Similar kind of mechanic, they have a construction office where, like, if you want to build any buildings, you have to have the construction workers from the construction office, like, travel out on the roads to the place and, like, build it.
Oh, that's interesting.
So especially as you get later into the game, you'll have all this money coming in and you'll be placing buildings, but, you know, they might not get built for a couple of years sometimes if you don't have enough offices, or just, like, sometimes for whatever reason it's a little wonky. You'll just have buildings that, like, never get built, and you can quick build them, but it is a little bit annoying sometimes.
That's definitely very different from cities, because if you want to put, you know, like a building here, you just plop it down and pay the money, and boom, instant. It sounds like Tropico has a lot more of, like, I guess, classic strategy elements to it, if you have, like, militaristic stuff going on as well, because there's none of that present in cities.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's a little less, well, I guess cities isn't really that directed, but there's not much of a point to going military, except for, like, keeping your island under wraps. So, like, if you want to give your workers, like, super low wages and, like, exploit the hell out of them, you're going to have a ton of rebels, and so you'll need military to, like, take care of them in that sense.
Interesting.
But if you want to, like, satisfy all their happiness requirements, you don't really need it. In Tropico 4, in Tropico 5, you can actually get invaded, and there's all this other kind of stuff. Wow. And there's actually, like, same island, like, competitive multiplayer, but it's kind of weird. I like Tropico 4 a little better. But there's also tourism, so you can, you know, you place houses or, like, apartment buildings, right? And that's for your citizens. But then you can also place, like, certain types of hotels for tourists, and you have to place a tourist dock. And so the tourists come in and, like, wander around your island. But, you know, if they see too many, like, you know, people getting, like, beat down by the local, you know, fascist cops, right? they don't like it. So you have to like keep it separated and, make sure that there's enough luxuries for them and that the workers there aren't, the rebels aren't protesting near where like the tourists can see them.
Right, because that's good for tourism.
Yeah, it's definitely a little humor focused in that sense as well.
That's interesting.
Because rebellion is so funny, but just like it's a little cartoony.
Right.
Your president will give like a speech when you do elections. You get like elections every 4 years or something, but then you can press the fraud button if you want to commit election fraud.
So it's
because you're a dictator.
Yeah. So it's like you focused in terms of you are a person that exists in this city.
Yeah.
Whereas in Cities Skylines, you're sort of this god hand that is creating and making all this infrastructure. I mean,
just changing the terrain on a whim.
Yeah. Supposedly you are the mayor or whatnot, but really, yeah, you are sort of this omniscient, like kind of entity that just places things and moves things and changes things as you see fit.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting, the focus on trade in Tropico, because with cities there is trade that happens, but it's very much a behind the scenes sort of deal. Like there's certain resources that you have access to, like oil and mining or forestry, but those don't really come into play until a little bit later in the game. A little bit later being kind of subjective depending on how quickly your town grows, of course, but I don't remember the exact cutoff. It just when you are able to specifically create what is the word, districts, you can district different areas, and so you can say like this district is industry but it's oil industry, so then they'll start building like oil refineries and things in that district only. So it's a little different in terms of how you harvest the resources, but then you need to have good connections to like the highway to be able to get the things out, and imports as well. And then there are ports and railroads also. I haven't gotten to the point with ports yet, so I don't know exactly what that plays into, but really like when you start your city, your income is basically just off of like rent and land space and people building in your spot, because that's what you get.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't make you any money at all in Tropico. Like a lot of the housing type buildings you lose money on.
Well, that's definitely a thing that I struggle with a lot with cities, is when I'm starting out, I'm like, okay, cool, I've got all this money, I'm going to just build all these roads and do all this stuff. And then I don't think about the upkeep cost. And so that's something that can really get you, is if you aren't bringing in enough money to offset the upkeep, you're toast. Like really easily early on. I think that Cities becomes a very easy game once you get something stable, because you could sit as a small town earning money for quite a while. People will complain and be like, I want leisure, I want entertainment, or whatever.
Or like, I want more housing, but it's not actually bad to have a lot of demand for housing. It just means that like, people want to live in your city.
Yeah, and so it's the kind of thing where you could sort of just sit there, make a bunch of money, and then expand a little bit. And once you kind of get to that point where things are good and going good, you're just sort of like, all right, we're done now. I can kind of just do what I want as long as I have the money for it. So but definitely starting out can be difficult and daunting, because there are little tutorial prompts that come up, but they don't tell you certain things that might be important that you might not really think about, just in terms of like, make sure that your water pump has power, make sure that you pipe, to everywhere that you've zoned so that they have water or that they have electricity, and then make sure you have enough money for the upkeep of the roads and the upkeep of the water and electricity as well. That's the biggest mistake I think I make, is I'll add a new section and zone it so people can move in, and then they'll move in, but I haven't given them water or electricity or anything yet. The nice thing though about electricity is it's not super, I don't know if it's a big thing in Tropico, but in cities at least, it's not super micromanagey. Basically, you put your turbines or wherever you need energy to come from, and if they're far away, you connect them onto the grid with power lines. But as long as there's houses next to each other, they sort of have a radius that they emit power. So if houses are built all next to each other and they all have power will connect automatically to all those houses.
Right, and you only need one set of power lines. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that works similarly to SimCity. Like watching City Skylines definitely reminded me a lot of SimCity. Tropico works quite differently. You can place a power plant, and then you place substations, which like you have to place it within the powered area, but then it expands the powered area.
Right.
And then just anything that's within the area can access your power network. But electricity is something that comes into play later in the game. It's like only late game buildings that need it. Like some of the basic houses and apartment buildings and basic industry don't need it. In fact, you can like upgrade them to give them like better output rates with electricity. But yeah, definitely money is a huge issue in the early game. And a lot of times the best approach is to like pick one type of industry and just kind of build yourself up a small like industrial sector. And that'll like pump you out a lot of cash. And then you use that cash to build the rest of your city into whatever you want it to be. And then, maybe you demolish that industrial sector. But it also has an interesting mechanic in that you start off with only a few types of buildings that you can place, but you have to buy blueprints for a building type.
Oh, that's interesting.
So like if you don't know how to make like a jewelry factory, you have to buy a blueprint. And maybe that costs like $10,000. But then the factory only costs like $2,000 to put down or something like that, right? So a lot of the later game buildings, their blueprints are really expensive. So like you need to, build up your income.
Gotcha. Well, I think that's kind of neat in terms of that approach. I mean, there are definitely like certain tiers at which you unlock infrastructure for the city. Like, again, like I said, the police station and whatnot, but it just is like, oh, you have 5,000 people. Now you can place a fire station or a hospital or whatever. Right. It's not like, it's not as, I guess, strategy focused in that regard. There's definitely strategy that goes into it, but in terms of like thinking about a quote unquote strategy game, Tropico much more sounds like that type of thing, which is cool in that regard.
To some extent.
But, yeah.
Definitely in the campaign. Like the single player campaign was actually pretty fun for Tropico 4. I didn't play it for 5 as much. Because like playing the sandbox mode, once you get your economy rolling, you pass a certain point and then it kind of doesn't matter anymore. And the islands are small enough that you're just like, okay, well, I can build new districts for my city, but I have almost unlimited money. And like, what do I even need? It like doesn't really matter anymore, right? You can just make it bigger and then bigger and then bigger and bigger, I guess, right?
Right.
But they have sort of this like metagame mechanic called your Swiss bank account. So you can place certain buildings that like will fuel your like dynasty's Swiss bank account.
Of course.
And that's sort of just your like persistent rolling high score.
Gotcha.
I don't think you can like use it for anything though.
It just
at least in Tropico 4, which is the one I've played more recently. I think Tropico 5 changed the mechanics around a little bit, but
okay.
Yeah, that's kind of my struggle sometimes with city building games is that you get to a certain point and you just get bored because there's like you built your city, there's not that much to do, and you're like, okay, where do I go from here?
That's really the struggle I think that I have is I have a hard time demolishing things. So like when I've built my nice little town and I have these horribly traffic jammed exits off of the highway or whatnot into my town, I'm like, okay, now what do I do? Because this is done. I don't want to I feel bad if I want to put in a new road that goes through like housing that's there because the houses gain levels and whatnot. Not that it would take.
But yeah, you have to not be afraid to just like level a sector and put in a new freeway.
That's really what's difficult. And so I sort of like get myself trapped kind of in this corner because I've built the structure of my entire town that is now city off of these really poorly constructed exits off the highway. And there's just
well, why don't you just build them better?
Well, that's just it. And that's sort of why I try to do that right at the beginning so that then I don't have to then later go back and demolish it. But then the problem is I don't have enough money to upkeep it. And it's just like, oh no, this is a problem.
I mean, I think that's kind of what the buying the new sectors is supposed to be for. Like you build a somewhat sustainable, like small unit of city in one area. And then you're like, okay, I'll unlock this new area, build a freeway over here. And it's just a completely new unit. And then you don't have to demolish it until like later when you can just like redesign the whole thing at once.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did. Like when I unlock the high density stuff, I build just like this huge shopping center or something basically. But I think that there is sort of that, point of I guess boredom, but where you're like, okay, now I've got all this stuff, but I kind of like the small town aspect of it, even though the game is called Cities Skylines. I like starting out is kind of fun where you don't have as much to worry about and you just have this open like area that you can just add roads to. And I think that I just need to approach the game a little bit differently and kind of like you said, be okay breaking stuff and like tearing things down and not worry about it as much, which I know it doesn't really have a huge gameplay like problem or like it doesn't cause a problem game wise to do it. It's just me. I'm like, these people built their house. I don't want to build a road through it. Like, how dare I? How dare I, the God hand, build a road over this person's house?
Yeah, it definitely seems like Cities is a little bit more of a sandbox game compared to something like Tropico. Or like last episode, I was talking about Pharaoh.
Yeah.
Also had kind of a similar thing where, the single player campaign was actually very involved. And like each level, you had very, very different objectives. So you needed to build your city in a different way. And it was more about like the particular choices you made about like which buildings you, or at least in Tropico, which buildings you're going to unlock. So like that defines what type of city you have. Are you going to be like industrial and military or something like that, right? Or are you going to be a tourism focused economy?
There's almost like a survival aspect to it as well.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I think that now, yes, you're right that cities definitely is more sandbox in that regard. There are scenarios, however, which it is kind of different. But like, I haven't played any of the scenarios because I haven't played the game enough to get to that area. Like I just haven't looked at it. But I know that you can create scenarios, and I did look at that when I was messing around with the map editor. Is that you basically set certain thresholds for certain things to happen. So like when your population reaches 10,000, you lose a bunch of money, or like this problem happens, or this thing happens, and you set like triggers and thresholds. So you could be like, when your population reaches 250,000, you win the game, and like that's game over. That's the goal. Or your goal is expansion. When you expand 12 tiles out or whatever, then that's you win the game. Or something like that. Or, you can set these different thresholds for winning, and set these things that happen. So like if your crime rate gets above 10%, then you suddenly have this like deficiency in money, or like, have all these other like things occur that can make the game more difficult, or sort of add a cause effect to it, which again, I haven't looked into, but I know that there's that functionality in the game.
Right, and then you add in mods and just community content in general, and you definitely have that capability. Well, and that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and that's what you were saying about like roads in Tropico. Well, the base set, like you have options for roads and cities, but I have a mod that I think it's called Network Extensions, and it basically doubles, maybe triples the kinds of roads you can have. It adds like 1 lane alleyways, or like country roads, pedestrian crossings. You can have up to like 6 lane roads, 4 lane roads, 3 lane roads. It just like adds a lot more variety. There's even a couple of like asymmetrical roads. So like 1 lane going one way and 3 going the other, stuff like that. But
that's nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And there's just some really nice, like, I guess, quality of life mods. One of them, which I think it's just called Move It. It's a little bit cheaty, but I don't care, because again, for the fun factor, like, you can, after you've placed anything, you can essentially move it wherever and however you want. And this is amazing for roads, because there have been times
it's different from the relocate mechanic, right?
So like with it's much more freeform than that. So like if you build a road, and I'm like, I want to build a road going underneath it, and you build your overpass, but the overpass isn't high enough, or like one of the problems that happens a lot is where the game places the pillars that will like make the overpass stay up. Like will land right in the middle of your road, and like, does this really have to be here? And so you can go in and like move any road like left or right, or make it, raise it or lower it. So I had the problem where I built an overpass, but I couldn't build a road underneath it. And so instead of having to demolish the road and just guess and check how high I needed the road to be, I could just go in and click on it and raise it up a little bit until I could build a road, and then move the like pillar that held up the overpass so that it went in between the roads going underneath it. And it's nice because it is super like minute detail things, but it just allows me to feel like I have that much more control over making the city cool. So that's a fun
definitely
thing for me.
Tropico isn't as much about like, building a nice looking city as it's
functional.
Like you're saying, it's much more of a strategy game.
Yeah.
Whereas, the Skylines part, like, you want to build this like awesome looking like cityscape.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is why those kind of tools are nice. And it, along with our theme of this podcast, which is, subverting game mechanics for fun factor, or I mean, I guess the last few episodes really.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Yeah. It definitely, with the more sandboxy thing, I think it's good for like those community aspects as well as streaming, because then again, it adds more impact to the growth and evolution of that city, the chat seeing the city grow and develop over time, and them having some input. You could even do like chat voting for different like laws in different districts. Like, all right, now chat, we're going to vote on marijuana legalization in X district.
That actually is,
I think would be really cool.
That's kind of a neat thing that I didn't really think about, is having actual voting. So you think about the people who are watching the stream as members of the city, like, all right, now we're going to hold a vote.
Which area should we expand into?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. I've tried streaming cities, I think only just once, but the difficulty I have is I I get too like it's too much thinking. So I
get too focused on like minute details.
Definitely. And I don't do as good of a job like actually talking. And I mean, it helps when you have more people. They're sort of like,
yeah. I think
that
that way it would be fun to just play it impulsively. Be like, okay, we need to build this. I'm going to build this. And then don't worry about the problems you run into, because that's like part of the experience and part of the narrative. Like this city was really shittily designed. So now in its mid stage, we're experiencing this problem. What is Kozar going to do to fix it? Like, you know, what is chat going to suggest or troll him with on fixing it?
Yeah, I could definitely see it being fun to stream, I think, but you just have to have the right kind of audience.
Yeah,
as well.
Or the right approach and mindset.
Yeah, I think that I approach it very much as like, hey, I'm going to zone out and just play this game. So it's hard for me to sort of stream it, I guess. Definitely my streaming style is much more reactionary. Mm-hmm. You know, I enjoy...
So you need like more like active stuff to interact with in that sense sometimes.
Yeah, so a game that has a story to it that's more apparent, or something that is just, you know, has things going on, whereas Cities is totally fun. I'm not sure how it'll work for me for streaming.
I mean, it does kind of have those like city builders and sim games sometimes do kind of veer into the casual side of things a little bit in that sense, or just the sense that you want to play it in a casual or chill sense.
Yeah,
chill way.
Definitely.
Sense. Dollars. That moment when you realize you've been saying the same word way too many times.
I do that all the time.
All the time.
Just say the same word all the time.
All the time.
No, but
no.
Anyway, do you have anything else to say about our city builders?
No, I think, you know, we've built the city already.
Cool. I like the difference in the distinction we've drawn between City Skylines and Tropico. I think that's cool, because I've seen some Tropico gameplay, but it's been a while and I've never played it. So kind of understanding that it is more of that strategy kind of game, whereas Cities is definitely more of a sandbox, makes sense as to why I like Cities. So.
Yeah. Oh, there's actually another game coming out by, I think Calypso Media is the company that makes Tropico, and I'm pretty sure they're making this new one. Have you seen any of the ads for Urban Empire? It looks kind of cool.
I've heard of it, but
it looks like a city building kind of strategy game, but it's much more focused on like you're like a bureaucrat or someone like in the city. So you're not necessarily like in charge of all the decisions, but you're trying to like within the scope of whatever city you're in, build up your own business empire and that kind of stuff. But then you also have some influence over the way the city is run and the politics. So that seemed really cool to me.
That's pretty
kind of
cool.
Getting into more, because it seems like it could add to the narrative elements too, right? And you have like, you know, the rival bureaucrat or the rival businessman that you're fighting against, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like it'd have a lot of strategy elements to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely seems like they're going that way, that route, as opposed to like the more simulation route. Simulation.
Coming soon to a theater not near you. Just where
theater near nowhere.
You just
it doesn't exist.
Right. You just take Civ and run a simulation to play the game.
Yeah, Civ is a city builder game. Well, I mean, it is. You want to build a bunch of cities.
That is one way to approach the fish.
But, you know, like earlier when we talked about Civ way back when in the early episodes of the podcast, I was saying that I was excited about the district system because it adds a little bit more of those like city building elements in there. I'm definitely excited for strategy games that focus on just different things in general, right? But I definitely have always liked city builder games, and you know, maybe one day we'll see Civilization and you can have as many mechanics as City Skylines.
Maybe.
Not likely. Probably not. That would actually be terrible.
That would be a bit much. Yeah, I agree. But I think that's why it's good to have those distinctions between the games, or different modes in the game, you know?
Right.
Because you get to the point and you're just overwhelmed with too many things that you have to try and do and make function accurately, and then it's just a job. Like, yeah, it becomes unfun at that point. Too much stress.
That's kind of the cool part about gaming and video game design in general, is that like even within a genre, like today we talked about city builder games, but like you were saying, we drew this huge distinction in terms of like which mechanics are important, even though you'd think that they'd have a lot of similar mechanics between like Tropico and City Skylines, right?
Yeah.
And then how much that changes the way you play the game and what incentives you have and what to build and all that kind of stuff. And just, the overall gameplay dynamic is so different, even though like on the surface, you're building a city and you want to have a good economy and people have nice places to live. But, you know, like they're so different.
Yeah.
It's cool. I love video games.
Really?
They're
You
awesome.
do? I never would have guessed.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. You had
But
me.
I definitely am like nerding out a little bit about just the different kinds of designs that are out there. And like I said, there's so many games to play now that all these design choices that you get to see people make and how that changes all the gameplay dynamics. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Definitely a good time for video games. I mean, any time is a good time for video games, but specifically.
I mean, 3 a.m. before work when you have work at like 7 is probably not a great time for video games.
Debatable.
But that often seems to be the time in which people play their video games.
Works. It works. It works then, and then you don't work because
it doesn't
you're
work
asleep.
at work. Yeah. Anyway, I feel like we can move on to the more mysterious element of our podcast now.
It's not so mysterious anymore because we've done it like every single episode, but I get your point.
I'm just being dumb.
You're just making segues.
Just ignore me, making segues. Yeah, I'm over here like, fusing wires to circuit boards.
Good. I knew that you were going to go for that like joke, but I wasn't sure how you were going to approach it, which made me very interested. Like actually segues. Take some tires, put them on a thing, like make a standing scooter. I've never been
they have
on
those hoverboards now.
Yeah, but they explode.
Have you seen those?
They burst into flames.
Oh, just like the Samsungs?
Yeah. This is quite the time for electronics. You've got electronics that just burst into flames.
Have you seen the memes where it's like, 2016, a smartphone was good when it had like this processor and that graphics card. 2017, a smartphone is good when it has a headphone jack and doesn't explode.
Yep. Yeah, basically.
Or 2015 to 16, whatever.
That's accurate.
Accurate.
The thing that I don't know if there's like an adapter, for the headphone jack, but how do you have, unless they have like a 2-in-1 that lets you charge your phone and have like.
No, you don't. You have to have like all these external gadgets. There's pictures of people on the internet with like a dongle into a third dongle to like dongle a second dongle somewhere else to get themselves to charge and like listen to music at the same time.
Yeah, that sounds pretty graphic. I don't know if I want to see that.
It's the dongle apocalypse.
All right. Who's going to go first in this mystery sound round?
I should go first because I'm cooler.
Meaning you guess my sound first?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
So I'm going to play my mystery sound number 1 clip for you. I'm correct in that assumption. Here goes.
All right.
Yeah.
That's nice and funky. I'm thinking that's from Kirby Air Ride.
I'm thinking that you are correct.
Ding ding ding. You know what? Actually, like the little blocks that were like in the like end of the phrase, that actually was the thing that stuck out to me the most. Is that not like the items are bouncing, but like one of those kind of events?
It is one of the events. You want to take a stab at?
Is it? Everything is slippery.
I don't know. There wasn't a slippery one. It actually might. No, the items bouncing was a different theme. I do remember.
Yeah,
that.
I remember there's a different theme, but I remember it was one of the ones that I hated, like in a similar category like that.
No, this was actually a good one. That was a beneficial thing.
Oh well, was it like the healing thing? No, that one's kind of sucked.
You just remember
all the boxes contain the same item?
No, that one was more of a march.
Oh well, I guess the game. So tell me the answer already.
It's the mystery pillar that appears.
Oh, okay.
It might have been used for one of the other events. I'm not sure because I know that when Tack stole some items or whatever, his music is the bouncing items music as well.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it might it might have been used somewhere else as well. But you got it right.
Ding ding ding.
Well done. Yeah.
Did you play it? Yes, you did.
I did. I would not rob you of your ding 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 reward.
That's like that's what I value. That's what I look forward to every couple of weeks when we do this podcast. I need those ding, ding, dings, man. Gotta give me those ding, ding, dings. I'm going crazy, man.
It's funny because you made the noise. So like you can ding, ding, ding yourself whenever you want.
But I can't make that noise again. It's that, it was that moment only.
Only in that moment. All right. I'm going to play Yo, Mr. Clip number 1, Po Me. What?
Yeah.
There was a lot of weird conflicting things happening there. There was a sword. There was a monster growling. There was music that kind of sounded like Zelda music.
I don't know why that would be.
So
no idea.
I am thinking it's from a Zelda game.
I mean, I'll tell you that's correct. Yes.
I am trying to place it. It's not from an N64 one. I know that because the sound sounded too good.
Yep, that's correct as well.
I'm thinking it's Wind Waker, but it also might be Twilight Princess because Twilight Princess was a little darker.
Well, you have it correct with one of those games.
Good. Shoot. Ah, man. I'm going to go with Wind Waker because that was my first thought.
And that would be incorrect.
Oh. It was Twilight Princess?
Yeah, it's Twilight Princess.
Was
it the Virus boss?
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I've never played the game, so but he lights on fire.
Yes, he does. It's basically a Balrog, honestly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of what it looked like.
I was thinking like Beast Ganon form, which
so does this count as continuing the theme of like something relevant to the podcast?
That works. Yeah,
Close enough.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
Was that something?
I don't know.
Okay.
It is now.
It is now. I don't remember if my second mystery sound for you was the one that might be kind of difficult, but we're gonna find out. So here goes.
Oh my goodness. That's ringing a decent amount of bells.
That's good.
I'm kind of thinking F-Zero actually, but I'm not sure. Yeah, let's go with some. Is it an F-Zero game?
It is not an F-Zero game, but now that you mention it, I can see it. I can definitely see it.
It's just like kind of the fast like rock kind of feel.
Yeah,
it's very similar to the music in the F-Zero games.
It is.
Okay.
It's from a game that we both used to play together, or like we would play cooperatively. Well, I guess it wasn't cooperatively; it was against each other, but it was for the GameCube.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if this was from like an F-Zero level in Smash, would you have like said the same thing?
Yes, it's not from Smash.
Okay,
it is not
because I feel like if it was like F-Zero in Smash, that still counts as being from F-Zero.
Correct. It is not.
Yeah,
related to F-Zero.
It
involves animal characters.
What?
Well, animal humanoid characters. They have to escape from a city at one point. And I think the multiplayer thing that we did, oftentimes you were just like grinding down a rail with your feet.
Oh, Sonic.
Yeah.
I don't actually remember the full game title, though.
It's Sonic Battle 2 something. I don't. I've.
Oh my goodness!
I
I'd totally forgotten that we played that game until like just now, pretty much.
That was I was looking around for a mystery sound, and I was like, oh, here we go. This will work. It's Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. Specifically, that music is from the Prison Lane level, but I almost picked the like Escape from the City music, but I felt that was a little too iconic because it's literally just like this doon doon doodle doon 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 doon. This guy's, we will escape from the city.
You should continue singing that.
No.
For our audience's pleasure.
That was it. It was just a little rolling around with the speed of sound. I got places to go. Gotta follow my rainbow.
Is that actually what the lyric was? Yeah, that's totally ringing a bell.
That is what the lyric was, because you're going down like San Francisco hills or something. It's just
yeah. Oh yeah, I totally remember the game. Like now that we're thinking about it.
Yep.
I was about to think Star Fox actually, because you said humanoid animals in a city. Because I remember we played that. There was one, I think it was GameCube, that had kind of the open shooter mode in the city where you could be like in the tank or in the plane or on foot.
In the tank or in the plane or on the train or in the rain.
Something, yeah. Spain. I mean, we played it on 64 as well, but I'm pretty sure there was a GameCube version that had like a bunch of crazy weapons and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a GameCube version, and then there was there were two GameCube Star Fox games, if I remember correctly. One was Star Fox Adventures. It was like more of a, I guess, Zelda-esque kind of game in terms of you ran around on foot and it was like adventure-y.
That was the one that was like third person over the shoulder, right? And like it was like the dinosaur-y kind of level.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was basically all dinosaurs.
And then there was the city level that we like flew around in as well, right?
Though that was
you could
the game you're thinking of was Star Fox Assault.
Oh.
And that was one that they tried to make it like a shooter as well. I don't think you ever played Star Fox Adventures.
Okay, I think I'm maybe just thinking of Star Fox Assault then.
Yeah, and that one we definitely played. There was the city, you could get in the plane or in the tank, the multiplayer, and it was weird. It was awkward because you had to hold down like right trigger to aim up and down, but it was like the closest thing we had to Halo at that point.
So on the GameCube.
We were all about it, but after we played Halo, we could never go back and play it just because the controls were too awkward.
It definitely was awkward, and I remember us kind of complaining about it at the time too.
But it was
cool.
It was a good idea and attempt. So
it would definitely be cool to see like that kind of Star Fox game given another chance. I don't know, do they have Fox now in some of the like on the Wii U or something?
They have a Star Fox 0, I think it is, for the Wii U. But I don't know.
I've heard like zero things about it.
I don't. Yeah, well, there's complaints about like motion control stuff because you use motion controls and you have to look at like the gamepad to like steer, and it's a little funky dunky, but.
Funky Dunky.
It's a Star Fox game, so who knows?
Well, anyway, so what? Am I 1-1 and you're 1-0?
Oh yeah, you got that wrong. Let me buzz you. Okay. Yeah. So we'll go to your second mystery sound here.
I mean, yeah, you just gave me enough hints. I think that I got it wrong.
Oh yeah. I immediately knew what it was from. Like as soon as I heard that little like balloon bubble thing, and then the start, especially, I was like, okay, this is from Mario Party 3. But then I didn't know what it was, and then I got the block noises. It's the I don't remember what it was called. It was the puzzle Dr. Mario Tetris game.
It was called Mario's Puzzle Party. It was a fairly generic name.
Oh, actually, well, Mario's Puzzle Party is like Pokemon Puzzle Party or whatever it was called for the N64 as well. Like you just have to flip the blocks and do things, I guess. I never really made that connection, but
we played the heck out of that minigame though.
We did. That was a good one. I mean, we just loved Mario Party 3 anyway. So.
You need a ding 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 for that one.
Oh yeah.
Ding ding ding. Ding. There we go. I'm watching out for my homie. Can't let you go without those ding ding dings.
I appreciate it. But yeah, no, it was definitely Dr. Mario-esque. But it was fun to play. And you could set the score to like 1,000 or something ridiculous.
Yeah, I think we just like played it forever. I don't know why we were so obsessed with that one minigame, but we definitely just in general played the hell out of Mario Party 3.
It's because it's good. I really think that the minigames in Mario Party 3 were stellar.
I mean, there were actually lots of them that we just played individually a lot.
Yeah, the foul play, where it's the dual one where you have to run around and catch a chicken, and then the chicken hops on your head.
Yes, amazing.
Pretty
also,
good.
Eats a Pizza.
Eats a Pizza was awesome. You just mash a button. So there's a piece of pizza that's split down the middle, and there's two people on each side, or like, two characters, and you just mash A, and you steer yourself around to eat the entire pizza, or as much of the pizza as you can. And I think we actually 100% cleared the plate one time.
Yeah, I think so too. What I really liked about Mario Party 3 was all the different like asymmetric multiplayer elements. The fact that you could have like the 1 versus 3 mini games, like the free for all mini games, the 2v2, like all the different combinations.
Yeah, I haven't played a Mario Party game for quite a while, but I actually just recently got the Mario Party 10, I think it is, for the Wii U, because it was on sale, and I haven't yet cracked into that, but that's something I'll have to do and see what it's like.
Crack it open.
Yeah.
Stream it.
Could be fun.
And I will heckle you.
Nice.
All right. What's mine? Last one. I'm 1-1. Coming into the home stretch. Here we go. Batter up. It's 1-1.
Yeah, and here's the pitch.
Oh my goodness, that's ringing so many bells, and yet I'm just like, help.
Well,
such a great feeling.
Yeah, it is. It's a great feeling for me too.
Is that because we've talked about this?
Who knows? Maybe we have. Maybe we haven't.
Okay, you're gonna have to give me some sort of hint because I'm terrible.
It was for the GameCube.
Oh, thanks. Was that from Fire Emblem?
No, but I can definitely see where you'd get that from, actually. You've been really doing that pretty well, right? Like, referencing another game that it's not from at all, but I definitely could hear it. I can see how you would have that thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
GameCube. Games on the GameCube.
Yep.
Like that we played.
We played it together
on the system called the GameCube.
Yep. Which is
with controllers in our hands, like as we were playing them.
Yep. One of those things that the GameCube was sometimes mistakenly called the Xbox by parentals because it was more of a box than the Xbox.
I mean, the Xbox had an X on it. Okay. Anyway, but I am like nowhere close to getting this. I really don't know.
It also has animal characters.
Was this from Star Fox Assault?
Yes, it was from Star Fox Assault. Good job.
I think
ding,
ding.
Oh, I'll give it to you.
Never mind.
I'll give it to you.
That's hilarious.
I think
just like
this keeps happening where you're thinking about the game before, and then so you're like, it can't be that one because we just talked about it. I was hesitating whether or not I should have actually said the word Star Fox Assault when we were talking about it before, but I was like, no, this will help me. This will help me if I bring up this game and talk about it.
Because then, I won't think of it. Dang it.
He'll be none the wiser. Mind games, I'm in your head through the internet.
Wise nuns.
So it's 2-1. Now I'm
1-1.
Here we go. Can I tie it up?
In the bottom of the third. Something.
Yeah, third. All right.
I guess this is the bottom of the third, yeah. It's too bad the driving noises are so loud, but it's actually about the music.
I'm curious as to what the heck was happening with that car's engine because it was just like rrr, 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 rrr. So that's from Mario Kart. It's from Rainbow Road.
Yes,
I'm
correct.
like 95% certain it's from the N64 Mario Kart because of just like the starting sound. Mm-hmm. And the like noise that happened, that bloop, which I think is toggling the map or something. I'm not sure, but I'm going to go with Rainbow Road Mario Kart 64.
You would be 100% correct. Ding, ding, ding.
Which means we have a tie, 2-2.
I think you did slightly better, but that last one was a little bit of a gimme. But
I would say that both both of your two, the Mario Party one and the Mario Kart one, were kind of gimmies, just because not only did you have the music, you had like sounds from the game as well, which is much more helpful, like adding context into it. I think that's something that I don't do, that makes it a bit more difficult for you, where it's just like, here's some music, and like the music you might recognize, but honestly, like if you didn't have that starting noise and the engine whirring and you just played Rainbow Road, I probably would have gotten it, but it would
definitely be much more difficult.
I wouldn't have been like Snap's finger, that's it right there, you know. So having that context with the sound effects is really helpful, which is also really kind of cool when you think about it, because it's not, you know, just the music or just the sounds, but the combination of all of the audio in a game is something that makes it iconic and makes it memorable. Yeah.
And all that context that, you know, adds so many memories.
Well, like, and I can totally see like starting out on Rainbow Road for the Mario Kart 64 and driving. And if I'm thinking correctly, there's like a big like hill that goes down right at the beginning.
There sure is.
So probably what he did was hopped and was in the air, and that's why the engine sounded so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Is that actually what happened?
I think so. Yes.
Nice. There you go.
Well, you just sound like a wizard right now. But we played so much Mario Kart that it's not that hard.
Yeah, I'm a hairy wizard. Wizard Harry.
You're a hairy wizard.
So
I think so, Harry. Maybe you should shave.
I actually just did today, so I'm not
congratulations,
a hairy wizard anymore. But this brings us to the close of this mystery sound segment. However, how do we settle this tie? We've got to have some kind of tiebreaker.
Yeah, have we had this situation before?
I don't think we've had a tie yet, which is interesting.
Actually, surprising.
Yeah, considering who we are and the fact that we only have 3 tries each.
Yeah, I actually have no idea what to do with this situation.
You know what we'll do? We should play a game of 1v1 Rocket League and then post like on Twitter who's the actual victor.
All right.
Or do you have a better suggestion?
We could come up with something like next episode to resolve the tie at like the start of the episode.
Oh, okay. I guess that makes more sense. All right.
You make more sense.
Your face. Okay. So then we'll figure out something to come up with a tiebreaker. I guess we'll get a third.
Stay tuned.
We'll get a third party to select a clip of music from a game, and we'll have to guess it.
Yeah.
That'll be. We'll figure it out. I think that'll be a good tiebreaker, though. We'll make it happen.
And we can have it be like a little intro. The tiebreaker. Last time we left it on a cliffhanger. Who is gonna win? Kozar or Quactical?
Dun dun dun
dun dun.
Good. We both did the music noise voice thing.
Yeah.
So I think this brings our built cities to a close with the mystery sound segment. I think
we built this city on video games and caffeine.
Caffeine.
Well, actually, do either of us drink coffee?
No.
Oh, well, then never mind.
You don't drink coffee either?
No.
Nope. Good. Yeah, it's one of those things that I've never really gotten into. But that's okay. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything, honestly.
Nope, me neither.
But so in future episodes, I think we're going to maybe mix things up a little bit with the mystery sound segment and maybe try and do something different, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it'll kind of depend on how difficult it becomes finding music clips and sounds and stuff for each other.
I mean, or we'll just have to rehash, but at the same time, I think mixing it up a little bit will be cool. So definitely stay tuned for that. We've got a couple ideas of things that we could do, so we're throwing some more spicy variety your way.
That's the hope, at least. Hopefully it's not too spicy. I
mean, we had so many spicy memes that, like, you know, it's just one of those things.
Yeah. But also, if you have any suggestions about maybe something we could do to mix up the mystery sound segment, whether it's another game competition thing or just another segment we can sort of rotate out with mystery sound, let us know. Tweet at us at tuneintogaming or shoot us an email, tuneintogaming@gmail.com. Either one of those work, but yeah, I think other than that, I think we're good.
You can check us out on Twitch. I'm Quactical.
Yeah, and I'm North Kozar.
This has been Tune Into Gaming. Tune out.
Yeah.